Welcome back to Cedar Rapids, Iowa for Stadium Review episode number 25, as today we're at Veterans Memorial Stadium, the home of the Cedar Rapids Kernels. The Cedar Rapids Kernel Ball Club was originally founded all the way back in 1890. Since 1962, the club has been a member of the Midwest League of High A, Single A baseball. The team went through several different iterations, leagues, and name changes until in 1993 they landed on the Cedar Rapids Kernels, which obviously pays tribute to the fact that Iowa is the top corn producing state in the United States. And 9 years after that, they moved into their new stadium of Veterans Memorial Stadium, which opened its doors back in 2002, as the stadium has a current capacity of 5,300 fans. And since 2013, the team has been affiliated with the Minnesota Twins. The stadium is located west of downtown, across from the Cedar River, and the stadium also shares a parking lot with the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders Arena, I'm on Ice Arena, that we were at for last Stadium Review episode. And there's plenty of free parking all outside the stadium. And interesting enough, the parking lot used to be the old Cedar Rapids Veterans Memorial Stadium, where the club played from 1947 all the way until 2001 when the new stadium was built and opened in 2002. The area outside the stadium was super cool, as the circular area behind home plate has a large tank as well as memorials to all the different wars that the US has fought in. As you go around the circle, you can read about each individual war, and there's several bricks at your feet that honor veterans from the Cedar Rapids area through all the different wars. And I think this area right outside the ballpark is a great representation to really name it Veterans Memorial Stadium. It really makes sense with these touches. Since I was there well before the ball game started, I took a trip around the entire stadium to see if there's anything cool outside. I made my way down the steps to the smaller first base entrance, and this is also close to the entrance to the Kernels dressing room. The right field corner had a lot of really exposed area, as there was a gate opened all the way to the field and I could see straight into the players taking batting practice. I walked all around the outside of the outfield and saw this giant US Air Force plane. Now unfortunately I couldn't find a lot of information about either this plane or a lot of the tanks that I saw. I was hoping that I'd find some history online about them specifically, but there really wasn't any on their website or anything. And in my exploration of the outfield, I did find a few gaps where you could look all the way through into the stadium itself, which was pretty cool to see. And finally, I made it back around to the front gates of the stadium, ready to go in. And it was a windy day outside, so tighten up your caps and we're gonna head on in. As you enter the concourse of the stadium, you get a great view immediately down to the field. Off to the left, down by the left field foul pole, is a more open concourse. There's a lot of picnic tables there next to a big hill where it has general admission seating. Also back in left field, they have a little play zone for kids, with a bunch of inflatables and stuff. However, on this day, none of them were up, and that could have been due to the strong winds that day. The left field area also has a private party deck out there. The main portion of the concourse wraps around from first base to third base, and it's a classic overhang from the seats and press box above, and towards the back of the concourse are all the different concessions. What I really like about the overhang of the concourse is there's different tables set up along the way where you can just stop at, put your drink, put your food, and watch the game from those tables. It gives you a really nice view and it's really accessible. The team's store is also in the concourse, a place that I always have to make a stop at. And what I found that was really cool about it is that they have the Cedar Rapids Baseball Hall of Fame, kind of off of a wing of the gift shop. And for those of you that don't know, I'm actually a big Cincinnati Reds fan, and Cedar Rapids was actually affiliated with the Cincinnati Reds from 1980 to 1992. So there was a lot of different Cincinnati Reds players in here that I recognized, and it was really cool to see. But of course back then they were known as the Cedar Rapids Reds, not as good as the Kernels if you ask me. Down the right field line in the corner by the foul post is another kind of private party deck area, as it has a roof over as well as a bunch of picnic tables and chairs. The concourse was also home to all the food vendors, and they had your typical ballpark food as well as some other cool options, such as this sandwich and barbecue stand that I have in the open concourse area out by left field. Unfortunately, the frozen alcoholic slushy stand was closed, but they did have really reasonably priced beers there, starting at only $5, and I got a cider which is about $8. Not a terrible deal, especially for the amount they give you. And I also got a foot-long corn dog. Felt like that was a very Iowa thing to get. It was really good and only cost me $5. Also grabbed a pretzel and cheese, which was pretty good, because this was my food for the day before headed back to Wisconsin. They also had an Iowa craft beer stand, which had a really cool design to it. I don't really like beer, but just the stand itself was really cool. I got into the stadium really early once the gates opened, and headed over to the section where I was, which were the bleachers by first base. I got the very front row bleacher, and that was only about $10. And since I was the first person there, I found 2 balls just sitting in the stadium. So I scooped both of those up. However, I did give one away to a kid, because I don't need 2 baseballs with me. Right in front of my seat, there was actually a little sliver of crack in front of the bleachers before the wall. And I did find some baseballs down there, as well as a lot of peanut shells. And I tried to take my cup and do like a Zach Hampel style cup trick to get one of the balls out, but didn't have enough weight behind it, strapped into my jacket sleeve. The stadium's laid out with the bulk of the seats wrapping from first base to third base. Just past first base is the bleacher section that I was talking about where I sat, and that extends all the way down close to the right field line. And in contrast to that, on the third base side, they have a grassy hill there for general admission. And that was absolutely jam-packed with kids. And it was really funny to see every time one of the third base coaches had a ball and was gonna throw it to the kids, just a mob of kids came swarming towards him. I liked where I sat because it was able to get me close to the action, but at the same time I really didn't like it because that's where the bullpen was, and they had a temporary netting structure set up behind where the catcher would be, so it blocked and obscured my view to home plate. But the bleachers were a pretty good deal and not too uncomfortable. Above the main concourse there is an upper level of seating, and it's all kind of private suites and clubs right behind home plate itself. But then out by first base there's actually a 200 level of seats that's not present on the third base side. Like any good minor league ball game, there was a lot of different gags and promotions going on throughout the game. And I really enjoyed their mascot, Shucks, what a great name for an ear of corn, coming out onto the field and waving his flag for everyone to see. And you know what he'll say if he drops his flag? Ah, shucks. However, the atmosphere wasn't as good as it could have been, as the attendance was pretty low for this Sunday day game. And the fans that were in attendance weren't the loudest of crews. However, I was told they have a lot of good drink promotions during some of the weeknight games that attract a really large crowd, and they get some pretty good attendance for some of their night games, especially on the weekends, so I guess I was just kind of there on a little bit of an off day. And it was a little disappointing to see such a slim crowd, especially since the night before I was at the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders game, where the atmosphere was absolutely fantastic, and in comparison, I was a little disappointed. However, the game itself was really good, which made up for kind of the dismal atmosphere, as the Kernels took on the Peoria Chiefs. And you gotta love minor league baseball, cause you get the ear of corn kinda happy looking baseball bat logo against the angry Dalmatian. Gotta love minor league logos. And the game started off going the way of the Chiefs, as early on in the first inning, they hit a home run to straightaway center. It almost hit the camera crew that they have out there, which is just 2 stacked up shipping containers that they open up one door of, and they have the camera in there. And with the wind blowing out, there are plenty of home runs, and lots of action during the course of the game. However, the Kernels were able to take the 6-4 victory over the Chiefs. One thing you always hear is you never know what's going to happen when you go to a baseball game, just because of the oddities of the sport. And in one of the most interesting things I saw, the right fielder for the Peoria Chiefs got his foot stuck in the right field wall. He was going after a ball that was towards the wall, slammed up against the fence, and it looked like he was injured because he was down for a while. But then I realized that his foot was just stuck and he couldn't get up. It was a pretty odd situation. And after the game, they let any of the fans come out on the field. They let all the kids run the bases, and you could play toss in the outfield. Now, I think it'd be a little weird for a dude in his 20s just running around the bases by himself, so I just took a lap around the warning track and looked at the stadium from a bunch of different views. And looked quite a bit at the location where the guy got his foot stuck in the wall and tested the padding. But apparently this is something they do for every Sunday game, and I think it's a great thing to, 1, make people stay to the end of the game because there's an incentive there, and 2, give a different perspective of the stadium from the ball player's perspective. And the big baseball ear of corn Shucks was out there posing with a lot of photos for kids, and having quite a bit of fun. And for every stadium I visit, I always try to get a baseball, so I got this really cool Cedar Rapids baseball, and I definitely like the blue coming around it. I like balls that aren't always just the boring solid white ones. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you soon for another stadium review episode. Thanks, bye.